With NFL free agency coming up in March, are the 49ers about to make some major moves in free agency? We have a 5-step plan for John Lynch to easily clear up $55 million. Stay tuned for that. But first, make sure you tune into the 49ers Report live. We'll be going live on Tuesday, live on Thursday. This right here will be our off-season programming schedule. The shows will get underway 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. Hope to see you there. Subscribe and hit that bell icon. Turn on those notifications. Therefore, anytime we push out a show, anytime we do go live, the faithful can join us. Hope all of you out there are feeling a little bit recharged, for those of you who are able to have an extended weekend, with it being President's Day weekend. And today's 49ers Report is sponsored by Roan. Get 20% off roan.com/chatsports. I'm wearing their commuter polo right now. It's become a staple in my wardrobe. Big moves coming. Is it going to take place for San Francisco in free agency? The Niners here can easily free up about $55 million going into the free agency period, which is set to get underway on March 14th following the NFL Combine. Let's first set the foundation by taking a look at the biggest Niners offseason needs, and they have several of them. These are the biggest ones in my opinion. You have to address the offensive line, and until the Niners do that, I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl. Last two playoff runs in which they've made it deep into the postseason, last year NFC Championship game, this year in the Super Bowl, their offensive line has been exposed. And Chris Jones in the Super Bowl, he's been able to dominate the interior of this Niners offensive line. So you have to figure out right guard in either the draft or free agency. Right tackle, same goes for that. Linebacker, because of the injury to Dre Greenlaw, Azeez Al-Shaair would be a fantastic pickup if he comes back to the Niners, depending on the price tag. And then opposite of Charvarius Ward, I like what Ambry Thomas was able to do, but it looks as though his stock has gone down. Only one snap in the Super Bowl. Have the Niners lost trust in him? And you could address the safety spot. I really like the future of Talanoa Hufanga as well as Jair Brown, but when is Hufanga going to be able to come back off that torn ACL? Now we pivot to the Niners' key free agents. How many of these players are going to return to the Bay? Chase Young going to hit the open market. Randy Gregory, I'd like to see him come back on a team-friendly deal. The same can be said for Clelin Ferrell. Jauan Jennings is going to be a restricted free agent, so the Niners have the leverage there. Jon Feliciano, Javon Kinlaw, has he outplayed what the Niners are willing to pay him after he finally stayed healthy in 2023? Will Tashaun Gipson retire, or will he come back for another year? Logan Ryan and the free agency period getting underway March 11th. The Niners extension candidates. Remember this list here because we're going to circle back to a couple of these players. Brandon Aiyuk, Talanoa Hufanga, Fred Warner, Charvarius Ward, Dre Greenlaw, as well as Aaron Banks. All of these players have been marquee players for this Niners roster, and a big reason why they've been successful since each of these players, respectively, have come into the National Football League. And then you shift gears to the Niners cap situation. Keep in mind, this is right now without any restructures, without any contract extensions. The Niners 21st in cap space, $570,000. It's not a lot, but that can change in a blink as we're about to uncover. The projected 2024 cap for all teams in the National Football League right now, $243 million. But because the NFL continues to be such a lucrative business, and business is booming, in the great words of Antonio Brown, according to Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, the cap could be about $250 million. That extra $7 million is pretty notable, and that could move the needle for a lot of teams. That's a pretty high-level starter for a lot of teams in the NFL. And don't you dare tell me, and I'm sure some of you have already said this in the comment section already, great trolling job by you, that the Niners aren't going to make any big moves. Because I heard that when we were talking about the Niners trading for Christian McCaffrey. They traded for him. He's been a great player for this team. I heard that when we talked about the possibility of San Francisco signing Javon Hargrave. They signed him to a 4-year, $84 million contract. And what has happened consecutively over the last few years? The Niners have paid big-time dollars to some of their big-time homegrown players. George Kittle, Fred Warner, Deebo Samuel, Nick Bosa, Brandon Aiyuk, most likely next. That would be 5 straight years in which a big contract extension has been given out to one of the Niners' homegrown studs. Now, coming up next, John Lynch's 5-step plan, which is completely realistic, completely feasible, to free up $55 million in cap space. Before we get to that, got to give a shout out to our sponsor, Roan, for making today's 49ers Report possible. 20% off, roan.com/chatsports. If you're looking for high-end menswear, Roan is your answer. Why I love Roan, and I'm wearing their commuter polo right now, high-quality men's clothing that you know is not cheaply made and is going to wear out very, very quickly. This will be a staple in your wardrobe for years to come. I really like their fabric as well. You see how stretchy it is? It's also breathable. And the more that you wear these shirts, wrinkles disappear. All I do, I have this shirt here in our dressing room in the Chat Sports studios. I hang it up, no wrinkles. It's awesome. So while you invest in Roan clothing, you save money on the back end because you don't need to go to the dry cleaner. Anti-odor technology, because who wants to go out on a date with somebody who's stinking up the joint? Dress shirts, polos, pants, and shorts. Roan has it all. The best part about it is the deal that we just noted. 20% off your order, roan.com/chatsports. That link is hanging out down in the comment section as well as in the show notes of today's San Francisco 49ers Report. All right, now to the much-anticipated 5-step plan for John Lynch to clear up some big dollars so that the Niners can improve this roster and help them win Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. Step number 1, it's an easy one. Restructuring the contract of left tackle Trent Williams. And if you restructure his contract, you can clear up a lot of coin. His cap number set to be number 1 on this Niners roster at $31.5 million. But that can be reduced by as much as $17 million with the restructure. You look at the top 10 cap hits for the Niners roster in 2024, Trent Williams coming in at $31.5, Deebo Samuel at $28.6, Arik Armstead, top dollar, $28.3, Fred Warner at $24.4, George Kittle at $21.9, Charvarius Ward, extension eligible at $17.9, Javon Hargrave, $15.4, Nick Bosa on the hook for $14.5, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Aiyuk, both chiming in at $14.1 million. Trent Williams is a building block for your organization. He's a pillar for your offense. And while he is starting to get a little bit older, still playing at an elite level. He'd be willing to take that contract restructure because he wants an opportunity to go after that Super Bowl championship, and the Niners should want him around. Step number 2, restructuring the contract of Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel is a very special playmaker in the NFL. And while the Niners paid him a lot of money on that contract extension going into 2022, he earned that, hasn't lived up to it. More on that in a moment. Deebo and the cap number, $28.5 million, as we just talked about, that can be reduced by as much as $15 million if the Niners rework his deal. And there's been a lot of talk about the Niners trading away Deebo. It's probably not realistic because of the dead cap number that would then come into play. But for Deebo, he earned his deal. He was an All-Pro in 2021, a special player and an MVP candidate that year. He was really the lone reason offensively why the Niners were able to turn the corner, make it to the NFC Championship game. Running back, slot, out wide as a perimeter wide receiver, picking up yards after the catch, kick returner. He can do it all. But he's missed a lot of time over the last 2 years, hasn't lived up to it. So I'm going to Deebo. We paid you. We care about you. We think you're really valuable. But you haven't lived up to that $28.5 million cap number. We're going to have to restructure it. The same can be said for Arik Armstead, who, like Deebo, has been a pivotal member of this Niners team. Obviously, in this stance, on the defensive side of the football. Arik Armstead is good against the run. He's good against the pass. But he's been injured the last 2 years. Plantar fasciitis last year, and then this year, he was dealing with the knee injury as well as the foot injury. And I'm sorry, I like Arik Armstead as a leader. I like him as a team captain. I like him as a player. I don't like Arik Armstead with the cap number of $28.5 million. So we're talking about Deebo Samuel and Arik Armstead here, who are simply getting paid way too much money for the games that they've missed. They can be impact players for your team, but I have to lower that number, and the Niners can save about $12 million here with the contract restructure. Step number 4, you extend the contract for Fred Warner. Feels as though he's been in the league forever. Hasn't missed a game yet. He's been durable. He's a team captain. Best off-ball linebacker in the National Football League. One of the best linebackers of this generation. I think he's worthy of a contract extension. And the Niners, of course, made him for a short amount of time. And before he was overtaken by Darius Shaq Leonard of the Indianapolis Colts, the highest paid linebacker in football. That was a move and an extension that was given to Fred Warner going into the 2021 season. But the purpose here and the thought of restructuring or extending, for the sake of this argument, Fred Warner's deal is that the Niners can free up about $11 million and then you backload that deal. That right there is about $55 million that the Niners can clear up going into free agency. You can target a right guard. You can sign a right tackle. You can, of course, address those positions in the NFL draft. And keep in mind, the Niners have a first-round pick this year. You're still going to have to pay that draft class. And that's $55 million, ladies and gentlemen, without making other cuts to free up more cash or extending a contract for Brandon Aiyuk, which would save even more money. So step number 5 here, if you extend Fred Warner, you extend Brandon Aiyuk, that's even more than $55 million. And this is why I always scoff at people saying Niners aren't going to make any big moves. They don't have the money. There are financial gymnastics that can take place. There are nuances for you to massage the cap as a football organization. You just have to get creative. The Niners have gotten creative with it. They're very smart financially, and that's the guide for the Niners to spend big in free agency. I hope that you were informed on today's show. If you were, type real one down below. Also let me know, will the Niners make big moves in free agency? If yes, drop some dollar signs. If no, type C for cheap. I'm not going with the latter. I'm typing my dollar signs down below in the comment section. We'll see you live on the show here in a little bit.